feel now? How does it feel? How does it feel when you're alone and you're cold inside? I love you.
Accompanied by a few notes on the piano, the song ends with a KGB interrogation, completing what the musician David Paich calls the sound design of the piece. It was recorded by his Russian brother-in-law. Why have you come from the West? Confess. To steal the great achievements of the people, the accomplishments of the workers. The highly experienced Bruce Swedian perfected the mixing on what he believed was one of the best songs that Michael Jackson had ever composed. So as 1996 drew to a close, Stranger in Moscow joined the star's many other successful tracks, becoming his last masterstroke in the European charts. In hindsight, the lyrics sound like the prediction of a waning career, here abandoned in my fame.
Here abandoned in my fame.
In 1997, the song was released as a single to promote the Blood on the Dance Floor HI Story in the Mix compilation in the United States, where it went totally unnoticed. Genesis and production. The short film, Stranger in Moscow, was the last of the trilogy that photographer and director Nick Brandt produced for the History album. He chose to make a simple, uncluttered video with unusual photography shot on a blue screen background. I suggested the idea to Michael, and he agreed. That's how it always was. I only ever made one suggestion, and if that didn't suit him, I had nothing else. So I was very lucky to work with him so many times. Michael Jackson and a few extras all appear to be shut in behind a wall of solitude. They are moving at normal speed in a world where everything else is in slow motion. The contrasting visual effects are superb.
Swift and sudden fall from grace. Sunny days seem far away.
They dramatically render the theme of nostalgia and the very intimate message that the singer is sending. On this project in particular, the director showcases his photographic skills. The images are so meticulously reworked and sophisticated that a kind of gloomy stillness and timeless aura seems to emanate from them. The one-time rebel of Beat It had minimal involvement in the video, no longer appearing to want to contribute new and visionary ideas to his short films, content merely to go along with the director's vision and approach. In this black and white film, Michael Jackson wanders the city streets like a normal person. The camera captures specific moments on his journey, with several scenes that are subtly reworked to turn ordinary everyday events into works of art. The melancholic and downbeat feel is expressed in the rhythm of the singer's steps, which were filmed on set on a baggage belt in a hangar at Van Nuys Airport. His hands in the pockets of his long black coat, he looks haggard, as he endlessly roams the streets, destination unknown. A purifying rain then falls, bringing to life all the characters trapped in their solitude. One by one, they raise their faces skyward, as if there they can somehow see a solution to their angst. The artist also comes to life and stamps on the wet ground as if rebelling against his depression. Michael was singing in the fake rain, in front of a blue background. As he sang, he stamped on the ground. But he stamped so hard that the artificial asphalt disintegrated under his foot. He demolished the stage set. Stranger in Moscow is a visual confession like no other in Michael Jackson's career. Both the video and the song are quite different from anything else Jackson has done, and are a part of his history that still moves his most ardent fans. For Jackson addicts. The documentary Michael Jackson Moscow Case 1993, When the King of Pop Met the Soviets, about his trip to Moscow in September 1993 is worth a view. A video of Stranger in Moscow that accompanies the Tease and House Club mix, luckily rarely broadcast, destroys all the symbolism of the piece.
I'm living lonely, baby. Stranger in Moscow.
Critical reception. Stranger in Moscow received praise from music critics and producers. Stephen Thomas Erlewine of AllMusic noted of history, Jackson produces some well-crafted pop that ranks with his best material. Stranger in Moscow is one of his most haunting ballads. Tom Malley of the Associated Press described it as an ethereal and stirring description of a man wounded by a swift and sudden fall from grace walking in the shadow of the Kremlin. Longtime collaborator Bruce Swedian has described Stranger in Moscow as one of the best songs Jackson had ever done. Fred Schuster of the Daily News of Los Angeles described it as a lush, pretty minor-key ballad with one of the album's catchiest choruses. Chris Willman of Los Angeles Times stated, "Stranger in Moscow is a step removed from the focused paranoia of much of the rest of the album, more akin to the deeper, fuzzier dread of a past perennial like Billie Jean." Jackson imagines himself alone and adrift in a psychic Russia, pre-Glasnost, hunted by an unseen KGB, here abandoned in my fame Armageddon of the brain, he sings in the somber, constricted verses, before a sweeping coda kicks up 4 minutes in and the stocky suddenly breaks his cool to wail about a desolate, inconsolable loneliness. Here, in this song, is the real genius, and probably real personhood, of Michael Jackson. The magazine's Alan Jones stated that the Todd Terry remix works like a dream, and guarantees Jackson another substantial hit. John Perels of the New York Times stated, "The ballads are lavishly melodic. Stranger in Moscow, with odd lyrics like Stalin's tomb won't let me be, has a beautiful chorus for the repeated question, how does it feel?" Further praise came in 2005 when it was felt that the song had successfully portrayed eerie loneliness and was characterized as beautiful by Josephine Zani of Pop Matters. Rod Temperton, one of Jackson's songwriters from earlier in his career, believes that Stranger in Moscow is Jackson's best song. James Hunter of Rolling Stone commented, "Jackson is angry, miserable, tortured, inflammatory, furious about what he calls, in Stranger in Moscow, a swift and sudden fall from grace. History feels like the work of someone with a bad case of thriller nostalgia." Occasionally this backward focus works to Jackson's advantage. On Stranger in Moscow, he remembers the synth-pop 80s while constructing racked claims of danger and loneliness that rival any Seattle rocker's pain. Patrick McDonald of the Seattle Times described Stranger in Moscow as a pretty ballad interspersed with sounds of rain. David Sinclair from the Times viewed it as a dolorous ballad.
Because I just can't stop.